today.
Approaching landfall at this time, eventually will move onshore.
See how hurricane hunters get critical data needed to forecast tropical systems.
Well, some of them fly directly into the storm, some of them fly above the storm.
Why parts of the world's largest desert are turning green.
On the very northern fringes where there's brown, now there's green.
Hear about a new threat that could devastate the honeybee population.
While local beekeepers could be impacted, the entire system could be impacted simply by having this additional pest in our area.
And we have details about how you can witness tomorrow night's partial lunar eclipse.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Tropical storm warnings are posted for much of the North and South Carolina coast this morning. A potential tropical storm, though, is less than 100 miles from land and moving closer by the hour. When it makes landfall later today, possibly here, right here in Myrtle Beach, it could be Tropical Storm Helene, bringing strong winds and flooding to the Carolinas. We have team coverage this morning, starting with meteorologist Jen Collins.
We're monitoring this cluster of showers and thunderstorms associated with a decaying frontal boundary across the southeast. This is potential tropical cyclone 8. It has no center of circulation at this time, so it can't be designated as a tropical storm. It has winds right now of about 50 miles per hour. So once it does get a center of circulation, that's when it will be designated as a tropical storm. But it only has a short window for that because it is approaching landfall at this time. Eventually will move onshore and then eventually weaken as it moves towards the mountains of western North Carolina. Next name of the season is Helene.
As we walk along, I'm going to show you what's going on here. Water levels have been increasing. The waves aren't at the worst they could be, but here's the thing. Because this is a big circulation, even if it is not technically a tropical storm, what's ultimately happening here is it's got the same impact. So there's a surge. The water levels are getting a little bit higher. You can actually see that some of these waves are at least approaching our feet. We're safe right now. Of course, if the water gets a little closer, we'll move a little further inland. But that's the kind of action we're talking about. More and more of these water levels just increasing as the broad circulation moves on by. And the waves, they're kicking up in the distance. Thankfully, this isn't a repeat of what happened with Hurricane Ian a few years ago, where the waves were threatening, of course, some of the piers. But either way you slice it, this is obviously messy weather.
Well, meantime, Tropical Depression Gordon is still spinning out in the Atlantic. It's not expected to impact land at all, but it is expected to remain a depression for at least the next few days. It will likely turn north and then fizzle out by the weekend. Despite advances in technology like in remote sensing instruments for meteorologists, direct observation is the most useful tool to help forecast tropical systems. Hurricane hunters obtain this data by flying directly into the storms. Meteorologist AJ Mastrangelo has more.
Most commercial pilots, they look to avoid potential turbulence in our atmosphere. The hurricane hunters, a little bit of a different story. Let's talk about who the hurricane hunters are. Well, actually, believe it or not, there's 3 international units of hurricane hunters. The most well-known ones, the United States Air Force, the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron, based out of Biloxi, Mississippi. NOAA also has their own aircraft operations center. That's there in Lakeland, Florida. And the government flying service of Hong Kong flies into typhoons there in the Pacific. So what do these hurricane hunters exactly do? Well, some of them fly directly into the storm. Some of them fly above the storms. What they do is they deploy and utilize weather instruments. And what that does, it helps us gain better information about tropical cyclones. It records the most accurate data, helps improving forecast models, and gives those models more of a starting point as well. So forecasters have a better idea of where those storms are kind of going and a better idea of what exactly is going on. And you can see this is what it looks like to be a hurricane hunter passing through the eye of the storm. As you can see here, the eye wall very expansive here. This is probably the best time that you would see a video here, as the majority of their time is traveling through some very high wind speeds, helping scientists and forecasters better predict tropical cyclones.
Well, parts of Central Europe are reeling from deadly flooding as a result of strong storm system known as Boris. The slow-moving low-pressure system has brought months' worth of rain to several European nations. Several people have died in the region as well, including at least one person in Poland, as evacuations were underway in affected areas. Most of the country should be able to catch tomorrow night's partial lunar eclipse, weather permitting, of course. And it's happening during a supermoon, making the moon appear slightly larger in the sky. Lunar eclipses happen when the sun, earth, and moon line up so the earth's shadow appears on the moon. The partial eclipse peaks tomorrow night at 10:44 Eastern Time, when nearly 9% of the moon will be covered by the shadow. And when you think of deserts here, the color gray may not really be the first thing that comes to mind, but after an incredible shift in weather patterns and really a lot of rain, the world's largest hot desert, the Sahara, is seeing just that. CNN meteorologist Chad Myers explains this phenomenon.
So let's show you how we got here. I'm taking you back to 2023. This is what the NOAA Worldview saw in 2023. Now it's a very subtle change, but I need you to notice here on the very northern fringes where there's brown, now there's green. Yes, I know it's subtle, but I'm going to do it again for you. Especially notice here over in Chad, where we're going to take all of that brown and bring it down. And then the rainfall came through this year and greened the area up. And yes, it's subtle, but it's there. Now, there was significant rainfall differences from where we should be in some places. We have to take this kind of with a grain of salt. If you're going to only get 4 millimeters and you got 24 millimeters, that's still not very much rain, but that's 600% of what you should have received. And this is all because the intertropical convergence zone has shifted just a little bit to the north, farther north than it should be. Very, very lightly, slightly, just maybe 100 or 200 kilometers, but that has taken what the rainfall should be down here and moved it slightly to the north, allowing the Sahara to be a little bit greener than it usually is.
Spotted lanternflies have been causing problems in 17 U.S. states since 2014. In the Washington, D.C. area, it has been a 6-year fight to get rid of them, and their populations have exploded this year. Meteorologist Veronica Johnson has more about how nature is pushing back against these insects.
This eye-catching insect with its striking spotted wings, black and white coloring. So why are we seeing so many?
As they feed, they will move from tree to tree. And this is why people are seeing them wind up on the side of a house, on a sidewalk, on a car. So they're more visible. And we've gone from maybe a couple trees with 100 lanternflies to hundreds of trees with hundreds or thousands of lanternflies in an area. So this is why people are seeing more lanternflies here in the DMV.
Ralph says there have been many reports of heavily infested areas throughout D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, with the exception of extreme southern Maryland. To date, scientists say spotted lanternflies are still dangerous to some plants. They kill grapevines, tree of heaven, and black walnut saplings. But now, Mother Nature is pushing back.
There is some good news on the spotted lanternfly story. Back in central Pennsylvania in Berks County, where they were first discovered, populations have already collapsed. There are hundreds of species of different kinds of animals, invertebrates like praying mantises, spiders, many species of birds are now adding spotted lanternflies to their diet. I call this Mother Nature's hit squad, and it's putting pushback on these spotted lanternflies, helping to reduce their populations.
There are many products on the market to kill the spotted lanternfly. If you find them on your trees, you could simply spray horticultural oils, safer soap, or pyrethrin, says Ralph.
And now let's check to see the weather in cities across the country today. We begin in Buffalo, New York, areas of patchy fog early this morning. Been mainly sunny to start. A few cloudy skies or clouds in the sky this afternoon with the high in the mid to low 80s. Next, we'll head over to Oklahoma City, where skies will be sunny all day and highs will get in around 90 degrees before dipping into the mid 60s in the overnight hours. And then heading over to El Paso, Texas, where skies are mostly sunny, just a few clouds spotted this morning. Highs today in El Paso will get into the mid 90s. And we're going to finish things off here in Los Angeles, California, and a look at LAX. This morning, you can see some clouds out there will give way to sunshine. Highs will be in the low 70s. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll find out why it's been a record year for tornadoes in the Northeast. And we'll also show you the invasive predator that's posing a major threat to honeybees.
I'm meteorologist Emily Santon. Let's take a look at highs in the Northeast for today. Mostly mid to upper 70s along the coastline. Definitely warmer inland in the low 80s. 83 degrees for Albany and New York. 78 in Portland, Maine. The same for Boston. 77 in New York City. 85 over in Syracuse. Nothing too crazy going on. We're looking at mostly sunny conditions with a couple of high-level clouds. Temps will be in the mid to upper 70s in the afternoon along the coastline. Low 80s inland. Expect plenty of sun.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. We're going to be seeing our weather pattern changing as we make our way this week. We're going to start out with some clouds for your Monday, but we'll likely see better chances of rain as a disturbance is going to be coming out of the south and east off the Carolinas. Could be tropical in nature, bringing some rains to the area. At least expect that, with also some breezy conditions, but otherwise that is all we are expecting for impacts. Temperatures will be cooling down a bit. We'll be in the upper 70s for highs on Monday, a few degrees cooler for your Tuesday.
Good Monday morning. Meteorologist Michael Ehrenberg here with a look at your southeast regional forecast for this Monday. Our next tropical storm moving through South and North Carolina with gusty winds, 4 to 8 inches of rain. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for that part of the southeastern U.S. with scattered showers and storms for central and South Florida and areas of air mass thunderstorms across much of the rest of the southeast, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and also the Louisiana area. Again, as that system moves to the north and west, highs across much of the southeast in the 80s except the rain-cooled 70s in the Carolinas.
The National Weather Desk.
Tornado season has set some records this year in the United States and in central New York. Syracuse meteorologist Violet Skyber explains.
How many tornadoes have we seen? Well, up to this date, we've had over 1,600, and that's the red line on the graph here. The black line is average. Notice that our tornado season this year was right around average up until the end of April. Up to this date, 2024 sits in second place compared to the last 15 years for the most active season. First place was 2011, if you may remember, the super tornado outbreak. Now looking beyond the last 15 years, the last 74 years, 2024 is still in fourth place. On average, we usually get about 1,200 tornadoes across the entire country in 1 year. We're over 1,600, and we still have the rest of the year to go. And third, second, and first place aren't far away. So it is achievable that we may have the most active tornado season on record for the United States. And we've already broken that record for New York State itself. So far, we've had 31 confirmed tornadoes in New York State this year. 13 of them were EF0s, 16 were EF1s, and 2 of them were EF2s. And 23 of those tornadoes happened in the month of July alone. This is the most we've ever had in 1 year since record keeping began in 1952. The old record was 25 tornadoes back in 1992. And keep in mind, on average, we usually only have about 9 tornadoes per year in New York State. Many tornadoes actually go unconfirmed. Why was this year so active? Well, that's because the remnants of Beryl rolled through. We had a few strong weather systems, and also climate change has been gradually making our weather systems stronger.
It's oyster season again. Meteorologist Amy Aronson went to Baltimore, Maryland to talk with experts about when is the best time to get oysters and why.
September through April.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Anything with an R in it.
And we serve them through the summer too, but really and truly it's the R months.
I think the reason that the quote unquote R months became the months for serving oysters had to do with the potential bacteria level in the water. Colder water, lower bacteria, warmer water, higher bacteria. So the oysters, I'm not so sure it's that true today, but historically the oysters were safer in the colder weather.
So yeah, the colder the weather, the colder the water, the better the oysters are. That's why whenever you go to a place and you see ice on top of the oysters, that's a good thing. You want the oysters to be really chill when you eat them. But oysters come from all around the world. Hugh and I were discussing how we like the Northeast best.
Yeah.
But they come from down south in Texas and New Orleans, down in North Carolina. We like the ones from here up to Nova Scotia.
Yep.
Why is that?
I think the water's colder, the flavor of the oyster is cleaner, and it helps bring up the salinity. I like an oyster that's got some saltiness to it, not necessarily, sweet and flabby.
Have you had the pickle points?
They're good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tastes like a pickle. It's got that pickle juice.
Nice little tartness.
Yeah.
These guys chuck a lot of oysters, but the best part is after they're done and enjoyed, they go back in the bay.
We have our waterfront partnership guys that'll take them, put them in a facility, in a container down the street, and the oyster recovery program will come in Monday and they'll pick them up. So
And then they go back into
they go back into the bay and
recycle them and start it all over.
all over.
Cool. Good for the bay, good for us too, right?
That's
Good
right.
for the oyster.
And we're right on the bay, right on the harbor. It's great.
Here by the harbor in Baltimore, Maryland, I'm meteorologist Amy Aronson.
Well, oysters are not the only popular fall food, and as the seasons get ready to change, it's about time to make way for fall fare. Les Bonus went to a farm and has his report on healthy foods that can boost your immunity and also your energy as the weather cools.
Part of the power in these foods, they are ripe for the picking.
It was pretty good. We got a lot of apples.
Good job. This group of students got just a taste
We've done this for a few years with my friends, and it brings up a lot of memories
of how coming together for foods in season is a great tradition.
We come with our friends every year around this time and just enjoy being with each other.
And a great health booster. They were all apple picking here at Kentucky's McGlasson Farms. Luke's family owns this farm.
Been here for 6 generations, and we do a lot of pick your own events.
And good health. So, what do you want them to sort of experience by doing this?
Yeah, so I think it's awesome to see the different varieties and to see how farmers grow apple trees, and then from seed all the way up to the apple.
And apples of every kind and flavor do top the list of eating for energy and immune boosting. They're like that perfect sense of tart. Wine shops, way to go. They are packed with fiber and natural compounds which fight disease. Pumpkins are the second immune booster. As with apples, they're very versatile, so you can make something from them appealing for everyone. The carotenoids, however, in the orange color make them powerful foods for good skin. Tomatoes also make the good fall food list. They have lycopene in the red color to help your heart. And corn makes the list. The yellow color has lutein, which can help maintain eyesight.
And finally, these amazing squash and gourds are loaded with compounds that reduce inflammation. This can help not just your energy and immunity, but those aches and pains that sort of set in as the temperatures cool down. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Beekeeping is not an easy trade, and keepers have to deal with all sorts of issues. But now a new threat looms on the horizon, and if not controlled, it could have devastating consequences on honeybee populations. Mike Owen has more about an invasive predator species that's been killing honeybees.
The yellow-legged hornet, the latest threat to honeybees.
Honeybees are able to defend themselves in their colony. What this hornet does is instead of going into the colony to attack them, it hangs out and hovers around the entrance, preventing the foragers that are trying to bring food back to the colony from getting in. And that stresses the colony, weakens the colony.
Each yellow-legged hornet nest can have populations of 6,000 or more, and they consume hundreds of honeybees a day. They were first found in the U.S. last summer in Savannah. The Georgia Department of Agriculture removed several nests, but none were found in South Carolina.
That changed this year. We have now found our first nests. In fact, we are up to 5 nests now. Our Department of Plant Industry, especially our invasive species team, is trapping and tracking these hornets, and when they can find a nest, they remove it and eradicate it.
While they pose a threat to local honeybees, they're no more of a threat to humans than a native hornet.
Their sting should not be any more significant. It's the same amount of venom, I believe, that's injected from a native hornet.
The yellow-legged hornets come from Asia, where honeybees there have built up natural defenses. Our local bees don't have those yet. Powell says nationally, honeybees contribute between $15 and $20 billion to our agricultural economy, pollinating crops that are critically produced in the United States. So any disruption to their population could impact the whole country.
We have beekeepers in South Carolina that migrate to California to pollinate those almonds, move up to Washington State, pollinate cherries, move back over to South Carolina. While local beekeepers could be impacted, the entire system could be impacted simply by having this additional pest in our area.
And time now for a short break, but first we take in views of beautiful Montana.
Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Taking a look at weather across the Midwest. We got a little bit of rain to the far north, also to the far south there, southern Missouri. Most of the Midwest pretty dry today, though. We're watching some tropical rain trying to move its way into the Ohio Valley from the Carolinas heading into Tuesday, but a lot of temperatures still in the 80s and 90s for your Tuesday. And again, still seeing a little bit of rain out across the plains on Wednesday, and most of that tropical rain starting to fizzle out by Wednesday, Thursday.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at our forecast across the region. We'll track a few showers across far south Texas near the Rio Grande Valley, and also some showers in and around Little Rock in Arkansas through the day today. Otherwise, it's more of that summer-like heat. Temperatures in the 80s and 90s, high humidity across a good portion of the region for your day today. As we head into your Tuesday, 60s and 70s in the morning, and then we're back in the 80s and 90s for afternoon highs.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. A big cool down has been underway with a trough of low pressure sweeping in, dropping temperatures below normal for many spots, especially in the Intermountain West, where we have the risk of some severe thunderstorms popping up along the central and southern Rockies today, along with powerful wind gusts across Southern California to Nevada, even parts of Utah with gusts up to 50 miles an hour. And debris flow for southern Oregon and Idaho around that area of low pressure. That's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
This time lapse shows thick fog rolling in right after sunrise Friday at the Mackinac Bridge in Michigan. Later, it shows the morning ending and the fog lifting, exposing a view of the bridge again. And these bears are taking a stroll in front of our Asheville station. Looks like the shade is just right under these trees.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Have you ever heard of radiational cooling? Meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains what it is.
You may have noticed that when you walk outside on a clear morning, the temperature is cooler than it is on a morning where the skies are cloudy. But do you know why that is? At night, warmth accumulated the day before starts to escape back towards space. But if you have cloud cover, those clouds can act sort of like a blanket, re-emitting some of that warmth back down to the surface. On clear nights, there's nothing to prevent that warmth from rising, so it escapes into space easier and temps at the surface get cooler. You'll really start to notice this phenomenon more this time of year because those nights get longer and that gives the warmth more time to escape into space on clear nights. That's why you get those cool, crisp fall mornings.
you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Monday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.